Imagine we did that whole like we just counted down like five, four, three, two, one. Imagine we did that every time. It was like had the whole YouTuber kind of like start to a video. And welcome back to the Mark and Duck Show. How you doing? Like, fuck, that shit pisses me off every time I hear that. Every time I hear an intro like that, I'm like, oh, please don't tell me the whole video is gonna be like this.
Yeah, I agree. Except for maybe this weekend, just because you got our old mate Richard Branson and our boy flying into
Oh,
space,
big
right?
Jeff Bezos,
Jeffy Bezos.
dude. What? That's I don't know. That's crazy, right?
Have you
Jeff Bezos,
seen?
huh?
I was just saying, have you been following the news, or have you read up like since we chat about it, like we had a chat about it yesterday?
Not really. All I know is Richard Branson bloody beat Jeff Bezos to the punch. Jeff Bezos is going in a Hulk cock, and bloody. That's pretty much all I know.
Yeah, I, I think like the details that I'm missing, and I probably just really just seen it on my feed, but I haven't looked into it properly. Is whether they're actually going to space, or because they keep saying they're going to the edge of space, right, or the edge of
Yeah,
Earth. Like, what does that actually mean, as opposed to going to space? Like, at which point
I think
is
they're
it
doing
defined
like
as
the bare
space?
minimum.
Yeah.
You know, we watched that video last night where they're doing like literally the bare minimum. Like they're going to like just where it like crosses over.
It
Like there's
counts.
always like a level where it's like fucking all right. This is Earth. This is space.
Yeah.
And where it crosses over just by like 50 feet or some shit, they're like, close. I'm
We're in
now in
space.
space. Yeah.
I
I'm
love
like, I
it.
get it. It's kind of cheating, but it's not that.
What?
Like, it kind of defeats the point of going to space. Like, if you go into space, I feel like you're comfortable in space. Like, you guys have the ability to be in space for some amount of time. I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, going to the edge of the the atmosphere, I'm like, oh, that's it's kind of just doing just enough, huh? Does that really count?
just enough to make it count, like to say that
Yeah,
you've done it.
yeah. I love how Richard Branson is just like. Do you reckon Richard Branson had any like kind of notion of going to space this early before Jeff Bezos actually put out kind of the I'm going to space in July? And do you reckon he just front ran as quick as possible?
I like we oversimplify it, and we're like, hey, these guys just playing this last week, and they're just trying to push the timelines ahead. But this probably started 7 or 8 years ago. They've been playing this for ages, and maybe like Amazon's probably got in it on it like in the last couple of years, but they've definitely like pushed it ahead to try to speed things up. But
Train speed. Yep.
I think it's a net win-win, right? Because it makes people who might not otherwise be interested in space go, "What the fuck's going on? Why why is both these space events happening like a week apart from each other?" So it
Sure. I
makes
think
yeah.
I saw an Instagram post this morning from Jeff Bezos. It was like saying good luck to Richard Branson and shit like that. I was like,
Oh
that's
really?
pure class. Yeah. I was like, that's pure class. So that's bloody interesting.
It makes me
Would you ever
think.
go to space if you could?
Um, Minus like the $500,000 ticket that it's going to cost for the first few people. Like let's say I won the raffle, or like in an Instagram like contest, like just happened to get drawn out. Like, hey, you got
Yeah.
you got a free ticket to go to space.
Free ticket, you go on to space.
I probably wouldn't be in the first round, but like by the third round, so like they'll send 4 people, and then they'll send another 4 people, and then on the third round I'll be like, all right, the first 2 crews didn't die, so
Yeah, the coronavirus, I'll let everyone else get it, and then if they don't all die, I'll get it. The
yeah.
vaccine.
And it's funny, like how like we were just talking about like the edge of space, right? It reminds me of the episode in Simpsons where you got Homer like stepping across like the 2 states, and he's like, now I'm here, now I'm there, now I'm here.
Yeah. Did you ever travel interstate and do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there used to be like a border. I think it's near Echuca or some shit. We used to go up there for like vacations and stuff. And
Yeah.
I remember like every time we'd cross, we're like, whoa, wow! I'm like,
Your
boys, what? There's no difference.
your inner Chuka just comes out. You're just like,
You go over the like borderline. You're like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Are you
And you
talking
realize
about
it's,
the welcome to Echuca sign as you drive
yeah,
past that?
like,
Or
as you drive past, like you cross that kind of like line where you're now in a different state. And it's like, it's no different. Why do we get excited about this crap? It's like someone, people hold like a little weight to like an 18-year-old or something like that. Like when you're 18, you can now make like, you're an adult, you make decisions and stuff like that. I'm like, what's the difference between 17 and 9 months, 17, 11 months, and 18? Like, my thinking has not radically changed, people. I am no smarter because now I can legally have a beer, have a little brewski. I'm now radically more intelligent and able to make my own decisions.
yeah, look, I think the other side of it is you want to have milestones and like it helps you keep track of what you've done, right? And I wonder like if we didn't over celebrate those milestones around like say 18 and 30, would people look back and actually remember any of like those years, like, or would they just kind of be blurry? So
Mm.
I get both sides of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think my thing's like 18. Like, why is it 18?
Yeah,
Does that make sense to you?
I
18 doesn't make sense to me.
it's a little bit like trading, you know. There's a range where where most people accept that it's okay, but then it shouldn't be. It shouldn't just be like a single digit or figure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like speaking, I'm like if they at least use the teens, like maybe it's just 20. Like you get up to 19, it's 20. Like
Mm.
the mind develops at 25. Maybe 25 is a bit too much, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, 20, 21, I'm like, far out. Anyway,
Mm.
whatever.
Well, you know what? Like when was growing up? When did you first get your phone? When did your parents buy you your phone? Do you remember roughly?
Oh, wow. That's a long time ago.
May as well go down there, right? Let's have this
Yeah,
conversation.
oh, yeah. May as well. I don't know. I do know it was a like a Nokia,
Yeah,
like throw it across the football field and try and break it kind of phone. Um,
indestructible.
insane. Now I like lean on my phone in bed and the thing just cracks.
Yeah.
Some bullshit. I think it was year. I feel like I want to say I had one in year seven. Could
It's
be right.
it's kind of like early high school, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, early high school, around then. I think that's when yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
when I got the phone. Just like nothing like crazy. You can only play Snake and like the $30 phone from Aldi kind of thing. Which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's what I needed at that stage.
Yeah. I think like I was roughly the same, probably year 8, year 9. Like so, what's that? Maybe 14 or something or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Um, do you think kids these days have their phones like handed to them younger? Like, do you have? How old's your younger sister?
Oh, my little sister's 17, turning 18 now. So
When do you think she
um,
would have gotten a phone?
I think because they were kind of already more developed,
Yeah.
she had better kind of phones at a similar age.
Mm.
Like I don't think she had her own phone maybe any earlier, but she
Yeah.
certainly had a kind of more capable phone.
Yeah.
So it had kind of better technologies. Like it was probably, I don't know what her first phone was, but I think it may have been an iPhone of decent kind of standards.
Bit more dangerous on the iPhone than the good old Nokia in
Oh,
terms of capability, right?
in terms of capability, I think it's a mini computer. Man, I
Well,
remember-
go on.
did you ever, you know how they have like that, everyone's got a stigma against Huawei, that company, the Chinese company?
Yeah,
I had one of those phones back in the day. They're actually good.
they're really good.
They're really
Xiaomi, Huawei or Huawei, depending on
Huawei.
where you come from. But yeah, all those budget like Chinese entry level phones that match the
Good.
equivalent in that mid range or that entry range. Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah. I know. I really rated them, but I know I got caught up in the whole iPhone. I'm important kind of era, and I don't know. I can't. I look at the whole like iPhone Samsung kind of debate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't look at a Samsung and be like, that's just because it's like, oh, it's a better phone. I'm like, nah, f that. This shit
Yeah.
looks great.
That don't feel bad. You're just one in two people who've made the wrong choice and bought the wrong brand phone. Like it's okay. Yeah, I can see how you could have made that mistake. Like,
Yeah, I feel like Samsung's the kind of people who are actually interested in the technology behind the phone,
yeah,
like the processing, et cetera, et cetera. And Apple is like kind of the people who just want a phone that looks good.
yeah. I I see the merits. I mean, like, let's what draws you to an iPhone? Because so you started with an Android phone, and then you made the transition to an Apple because it's sexy, it's nice. What drew you to it?
I think when I was younger, it was definitely because it looks sexy as hell. Like
Yeah,
this thing is clean, minimal, elegant,
yeah.
like kind of mirrors
You
are
like
kind of the
you're
what
like
I
making
wanted.
love. You're making love to your phone as you're saying this. Like,
I love it. But
that's so good.
I think now I'm just accustomed to the way like the back end of Apple works. It all
Yeah,
works in with each other. So changing that would kind of be like ugh. Like I'd if I had to, I would do it. And I do have actually a Samsung for some other stuff. Um, I don't know. I just
so
everything works together with Apple and Google and stuff.
so the aesthetics of design is what gets your initial interest, and then when you try the phone, the ecosystem and just the way it, as a lot of Apple people say, it just works, makes you kind of, it solidifies your decision, and you just go, well, this works, why would I change? Like, once you've got one,
Yeah.
or
I feel like that seems superficial, but I think you're 100. I think you're right. I think for me
mm,
to be like really interested in it, it has to be kind of aesthetically pleasing to me. And my kind of aesthetically pleasing is more like minimal, sleek, elegant, kind of that
yeah,
classy kind of design and look. Um,
yeah.
Me, that's aesthetic.
Well,
And
I think there's a life lesson in that. It ties back into our last podcast around, like, the first impressions, and like, you get the initial allure. You even job interviews or businesses, if they if they want to learn something from Apple, start with the visuals. A guy is naturally attracted to good looking girls. You just hit people with design, you hit people with aesthetic, and then follow through with quality, and that's what
yeah,
makes them like loyal forever.
I think following through with like the quality as well. Like you can't,
Mm.
there's no longevity if there is no quality, right?
Yeah,
So aesthetics only go so far. But I think with Apple, like they do a good job, and I think we've spoken about this before, but they do a good job of creating experience.
mm.
Um, Sam, one of our friends in the conversation yesterday, Sam Rayner, he was also kind of talking about the experience of opening an Apple phone, a package, the peel back on the phone, on the of the cover of the iPhone,
Plastic.
et cetera.
Mm.
It's, um, it's created in a way that makes you feel kind of feel personalized or feel like every little detail has been, I guess, thought of for you.
Yeah.
And that's something that Apple does really, really well is in its small details.
Do you think
So
do you think they've got like three group workshops where they've got like, three groups of 10 people, and they're just sitting there, and they're like, all right, we just want you to go through this and just describe how you felt, and what are your emotions, and like how would you how do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. But imagine they do. Well, surely, right? Like,
I
surely
don't
someone's testing it out.
It's probably not that far from the truth, I'm gonna be honest. Like,
Yeah.
when those little details make such a big difference for launch and for hype and like the actual build up and all these tech reviews. And what are half the tech reviews? It's like unboxing of the latest iPhone 50, right? Like, it's
Unboxing therapy.
yeah, unboxing therapy. How good is that? Like,
Oh,
yeah.
like if that doesn't literally cold therapy, like if that doesn't make you happy, I don't know what does.
I I feel like we get to a point where like a new phone's released, and if you want to skimp all through the details, you can read an article in like 6 seconds in three dot points. You can get roughly what the new features are. but you sit there sitting and watch a 25-minute video because it's like therapeutic. You're just like, he's going through the unpackaging, he's going through the features.
Yeah.
He's
And that's like I just bought a Mac, and I think like there's definitely like probably better computers out there. I mean, with the new M1 chip, the inside and the quality of it is considerably better
makes it
than
way more compelling from like
yeah than it has in previous. But for me, the major selling point, I know this is kind of superficial, but kind of like my personality, the way I see myself and want to see myself in the future is that kind of like elegant, classy kind of visual. And I think the sleek look of the Mac really emulates that. And for me, I know it may seem, using the same word, superficial, but to me that's important.
yeah.
Presentation, that first impression, to me that's important. Like I feel like if I went to any kind of client or something like that and I had I don't know, like some $200 little mini kid's laptop kind of thing, it kind of wouldn't give off the same impression of having like a sleek kind of elegant MacBook.
You're thinking of the Chromebooks. You ever seen a Chromebook? They're like
I have,
they're the
I've seen
cheap.
some that are good,
I think
but
they're like $300 or something. $300-$400. The
Yeah,
minimal
I think-
entry.
yeah, exactly. Minimal entry. I just think we come into different points of our lives where things kind of change and become more important. And it's kind of, I think it's kind of similar to like the whole lawyer and the whole real estate agent needs to have a nice car, because it's kind of that visual representation of who they are, what they know, etc. So
Can you imagine going to like a $2 million or $3 million house inspection on a Saturday in like McKinnon or like wherever, right? And you've got this dude that comes out of this beat up Mazda this Lancer, and they've got trackies on, and they've got
it just
they've got
doesn't
socks
look
and flip flops. He's just like, all right, guys, thanks for coming through.
yeah, and it's not that guy may not know his stuff. Like he may know everything about the house. He may understand his knowledge maybe better than the person, with the suit and the nice car. But it's like kind of, how is your clientele or how is your audience? What kind of light do they, and what kind of way do they perceive you in?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think like the way the world, like that is important, but it's also important to stay like true to your kind of nature. Like for me, I've always like, I've had like this kind of phone since I was a kid. So I've slowly started understanding that that's my style. You always see every time kind of like we have something other than kind of just a relaxed conversation, I'm wearing a nice polo or, a nice pair of slacks and stuff like that. It's just me. It's the way I like to kind of dress, and that's the aesthetic I like.
I think that, I think that's a similar argument of, whether you should spend money on your appearances, whether you should have like, and it's, a lot of people will be overly critical on clothing, but it can apply to, should you have haircuts regularly? Should you shave regularly? Because it's not just an investment of money, it's an investment of time, right? So should you take out that extra time to, thread your eyebrows if you're like super, like, you're super into the grooming side of things as a male, especially. I can't speak for females, but, speaking as a male. And like, I used to, especially when I was starting out and wasn't getting paid very much. I was trying to be frugal and save money, so I had this, I convinced myself that haircuts were a waste of money, so I used to, do the own buzz haircut, and then, contrast to today, I'm happy to pay $30 or $40 for, like a haircut if it makes me feel good, and in turn give me the confidence to, go about my day with that extra self-esteem, like from my appearance.
And I think, tell me what you think, but I think that kind of thought process evolves over time. But it also evolves with your kind of financial status and your like where you are in life. And like when we're doing that grind of, eating dollar soup cans, trying to save money and, I got my partner to cut my hair for a long time, and got one of the boys to cut my hair as well. Like you do everything you can to kind of get that first amount of capital. And when you kind of had that first amount of capital, it's not necessarily now wasting your money. It's like, okay, I can have those not luxuries, but those normal things again.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
agree.
yeah, people say those normal, like haircut is like a normal thing. And, but the reality is a lot of us sacrificed
Yeah,
doing those
I
things.
I think compared to the infinite ways you can blow your cash, haircuts are low on that list. Like if there's a spectrum of like splurging a little bit and splurging a lot. So I'd say, like as someone who is trying to get ahead, we're willing to make a lot of sacrifices very early on. So in our mind, that was something that was not worth the money at the time. But as you slowly, you can't make sacrifices all the time when you've started to see the fruits of your sacrifice. Otherwise, you're not really enjoying the fruits of your sacrifice. So I think you're right. It's relative. The more you make, the more comfortable you get, the more you can start to add things that are considered normal back into what you're willing to spend on.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you have like a style? Like, do you know your kind of like style? You know, like people have streetwear,
Yeah.
people have like young business professional. Do you know your style? Do you have like a style?
Depends who you ask, but if you ask Jenny, she's like, he's out of style. he's,
Jenny's gonna love that.
that's why
Jenny's just sitting there, goes, he has no style.
that's why I have to dress him. Like I can't even let him choose his own outfits anymore.
If Jenny's dressing you on the way out, that's the best shit. That's hilarious.
It's gotten to a point, right? So I'll paint the setting, right? So I've got usually I just wear my regular outfit to work, but it's a Friday. I've got an end of year financial party, going to a
Yeah.
cocktail bar, and I'm like, shit, like what do I wear, right? Because I have to go into the office and then we're going out after. And Jenny goes, oh, just dress smart casual. That's what comes to mind, right? But I'm like, what's smart casual? So does that mean I have to wear a button-up shirt and a sweater? I'm like, all right, fine, I'll wear that, right? And then I'm deciding between chinos and jeans, and it's like the most common comment I get from my girlfriend Jenny is, you can't mix casual and formal. You're either casual or you're formal, or you're smart casual, but you can't mix them together, right? It's like wearing trackies and a button-up t-shirt. You just don't do it.
It just doesn't.
But my opinion on it is, chinos aren't as casual as trackies, so it's fine. So I'm wearing chinos, and then the next morning, so we both agree on the outfit. She's like, all right, look, we can agree on this. You can leave the house like this. And I'm like, all right,
Okay, representation of us.
yeah. I'm like, fine, thank you. I've got your blessing. I can leave now. And then in the morning, as I'm heading out on that Friday, Jenny's there in the morning, and she's leaving with me in the morning, and I chuck on a duffel coat, and she goes, whoa, I didn't say anything about that duffel coat, like.
Wait, what's a duffel coat?
So a duffel
What is
coat
it?
is kind of like a trench coat, but instead of a zip up, it's got like buttons that kind of like
Oh,
interlace.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a style of a coat, right?
Yeah.
But because I was wearing the chinos and like sneakers, she was like, "You just look confused," like, and and then I have this internal debate. I'm like, she's probably right. But if I give her way every time, I'm slowly gonna just give up part of me, and I'm just slowly gonna just become like you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
become
know.
less of a man. So so then I'm forced to leave the house. So then I'm forced to leave the house dressed, like less than ideal, but I'm doing it just to retain the Marky Melbourne, just
Marky Melbourne man
so I can
kind
feel
of
like I
mentality.
made that decision. Yeah. Shit.
You're the best shit. Honestly, you're the best shit. Dude,
But
dress how the fuck you want. Jenny,
yeah.
leave him alone, Jenny. Leave him alone.
So I don't know if that answers your question around if I have a style. So my style is Jenny's approval, and then just going against her approval by just like tweaking one thing that really annoys her at the end, and then that's my outfit.
I would say that's not a style. I would say that's doing as one's told. I'd say that's Jenny's style.
Yeah,
But
I'd say so.
I think it's important to try and. Oh, I guess it's not. It maybe not be important to everyone, but I don't know. I find it
Look,
anyway.
I went from like in my early teens, I went from like baggy clothes because it was just the thing. Like when I was growing up, like cargo pants and like just like even flares was a thing at one point, right? And like
Yeah,
it was acceptable. Like people at school would cut their school pants like a slit on the side so that their pants would like flare over their shoes, just so like it wouldn't look so like straight legged. And that was just like normal, right? I know it's weird. Ask anyone my age and they'll completely understand. It was just like it
I
was just a
forget your
phase.
30s.
What's that? Sorry.
Forget your 30s sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I know. You just make me feel old, mate. but but yeah, no. So I went from like loose clothes, and then I noticed that I was just wearing like loose clothes all the time, but I wanted more fitting clothes. So I started buying clothes that were either correctly sized or slightly on the tighter side. And straight away, like I knew like I just looked better just because like I was wearing clothes that fitted right and it complements your body. And because I've got great aesthetics, no, I'm joking.
Hold on, hold on. No, no, no. Don't you? I'm not letting you get away with that because you are in ridiculous shape.
I'd say I look athletic. I wouldn't say like I'm like I've got like an athletic build.
I'd,
Yeah.
I'd say you're a model, but that's all right. Whatever.
Nah, you're being too kind, mate. But just like that little change, kind of um made me kind of start like noticing compliments from people just saying, "Hey, like I think you dress well." Like just small things like that. You won't get it all the time, but you get it way more than like if you just kind of threw whatever on and you're always wearing the same outfit. And that gave
Yeah,
me a bit of confidence. And then I went through like different styles and I came back to just really lazy. So either just comfortable. So like this is a perfect example. This is not the most stylish thing, but it gets me through winter. But
yeah,
then if it's a special event, I'll know how to dress up, if that makes sense. I'll have the
yeah,
slacks, I'll have the outfit for the occasion.
yeah.
Yeah. How about
I've
yourself?
I've recently been getting on the advice of someone getting things tailored.
Yeah. Oh,
Change the game.
that's interesting.
Change the game.
Yeah.
It's not even not. There's no comparable.
Tell me more
Like
about it.
everything kind of fits me off the shelf, but having things tailored where it's really specific, like it fits your. Um, I have like my legs just don't make sense, right? So quad to like calf ratio is like it's just stupid,
So
right?
massive
So
calves and small quads, or
wildly the opposite. Like not
okay.
big legs, but like in kind of like a ratio, my quads are like considerably larger than my calves. Like not
Yeah.
large, like I'm not saying I'm jacked. I'm just saying like they're just bigger, right? So
Yeah.
things that fit my quads then are like baggy on my calves and ankles.
Yeah.
Having that kind of tapered in and fit nicer. And then some things like having kind of your shoulders fit nicer, having kind of your arms, like shirts are meant to be kind of cut towards halfway of your bicep.
Yeah.
And you notice like those small changes that you can only get when you tailor a specific fit to your body. It
Mm.
changes like aesthetically, it changes the look, but it also I found makes me feel considerably better. Like I'm always wearing something that, well, most of the time, especially when I kind of put like a nice polo on or something or some nice pants, I'm
Mm.
always wearing something that fits really well,
Yeah.
and it just feels good.
Yeah, for sure. That I think that's an awesome tip. I think with I think like most people start by wearing the right sizing, but they don't really think about tailoring just because they're not sure, you know. Well, at least like from my experience anyway, I I see sort of tailoring the application more for like formal outfits, but I
Mm.
hadn't really thought about it for, like your more casual clothes. So you might, if you're someone who prioritizes that, you might buy less clothing, but you might buy, a few shirts that are really high quality, get them tailored, and then you've got these five shirts that okay you paid a little bit extra for, but they fit immaculate. Like they're literally they're perfect for your sizing, the style, the quality of the materials are great, and the material feels good on your skin. So
I think it comes down again, like a point of kind of that is like the Kaizen philosophy, always trying to progress and make things better, like always trying to improve. It's like even those small things, like every little detail, like how can you kind of progress that small little detail in your life? It may not have the largest ROI, but it's about kind of progressing and focusing on the small details and of really everything.
yeah, well, that's a good like maybe reminder for the listeners. What does Kaizen mean to you? Like, what's the concept behind Kaizen?
So it's a Japanese philosophy meaning the continuous pursuit of progression.
Yeah,
So we actually spoke about it yesterday in our Huggle Head Start podcast yesterday. But there's the example we use every time is kind of like a tea ceremony.
yeah,
And this was brought up yesterday, but I'll just kind of preface again for our audience is a lot of people just look at the tea kind of ceremony of the Japanese and think it's just something that, is just you pour your normal people as well, just pour their tea and drink their tea and that's it. But if you actually watch kind of really any video on YouTube, or there's a few movies as well that kind of highlight this, every kind of movement of the arm and every kind of every part of the ceremony is continuously progressed upon, and they try to make it as perfect as possible. And that's kind of one example, but there's a lot of areas in your life that, well, all of the areas in your life, I should say, that if you kind of adapt this philosophy towards, you can start progressing at kind of like that 1% in each area, and 1% over a decent amount of time, or 1% a day over a long amount of time, ends in some really, really good results.
yeah. I think that was beautiful. I think you explained that really well with the tea example. I was actually in Japan, and we, like Jenny and I think it was like one of our last days in Japan, and we had like some currency left over, so we're thinking, how can we like just spend a bit of extra money, like the last of it. And we went into this tea place, which was like awesome. I think it was in Kyoto, and they showed us and they talked us. It was like $35 for like tea, right? Like I've never paid that much for like a cup of coffee, let alone like tea, right? And they talked us through it, and there was like 3 different teas, and they had 3 different cups, and they showed us how the best way to have tea is to pour not boiling hot tea, but hot tea into your first cup, and then you pour it into the second cup, and as you pour the tea into different cups, the temperature cools down to the right temperature. So
Wow.
there was a whole process, and like I'm not doing it justice, but it made me appreciate there was more to the process of making tea, and then also enjoying it at the best, in the best way you can. So really, really interesting.
I think those small details really do matter.
Yeah.
Really, really, really do matter. I have this is funny. Like we talk about yesterday, what we are talking about kind of bleeds into our podcast all the time. So like everything that's happened throughout the week, but like I'll use the same quote that I fucked up yesterday, but I think I've got it in. I think I've got it right today.
Yeah.
It was like, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And I think that quote kind of embodies what we're trying to.
Tell me more about that. When was the first time you ever heard that quote? Do you remember? Was it from the book, or was it from when you first learned the philosophy, or?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things I just heard on it might have just been an Instagram story, an Instagram post that I just saw, and I was like, I think I have heard of it before, because it stems from, the way I used to understand it stemmed from like when I used to play sport. It's like how you train is how you play.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Right.
How do you feel when you say that out loud? Like, what sort of emotions, or like what comes to mind when you think of that?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I definitely I was like, I'll just perform when I'm actually playing.
Yeah.
Like
Like match
kind
day
of
or game day. Yeah.
Yeah, at match
Yeah.
day. So say you play football, you train on Tuesday and a Thursday, and you play the actual game on a Saturday. So I wouldn't train anywhere near to the competition level that I would play on a Saturday,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of, I guess that mindset doesn't allow you to progress, but it doesn't allow you to like build the correct habits that
Mm,
allow you to focus in on the small details.
yeah.
So, like a business example is if you take a little shortcut in, I mean, explaining something to someone that can negatively compound and, lead to larger negative results. So how you do anything and how you do everything. So everything you do needs to be at competition level always.
Yeah.
And then you're always at competition level. So if you're ever kind of not necessarily take the foot off the gas, but if you're ever kind of like doing things by half,
Mm,
they're always going to compound into larger negative results
mm,
eventually.
yeah. So knowing that now, what would you have done? Would you have um, applied that completely differently going back? If like as you know back to your training days, would you have like applied that from the start? Do you feel
Oh,
or
I would have made it. I would have made AFL.
yeah? I wouldn't be here talking to you as a you peasant like
Nah, this is a weird one. Like I'm a big believer of like kind of I had to not understand it then so that I can now have perspective and understand it now.
yeah,
So
perspective, right?
yeah, it's a hard one, but it's like if I kind of had that mentality then which I feel like a lot of people do,
Hmm.
especially the high competitive or high performance or the young kind of not necessarily just athletes, young business people, young really anyone who has that mentality young,
Yeah,
they perform at a higher rate and they do well, you know. So I think
yeah,
like there's always a difference. I saw a video between Cristiano Ronaldo, and everyone in his team is like struggling to do push-ups or like kind
mm,
of doing them by half, and he's just pumping them. All everyone's doing push-ups, I should say, and he's doing
yeah,
clap push-ups.
yeah. Taking it
You
to the
know,
extreme.
taking it to the next level. Like he's always and in kind of when he plays his normal games, like in soccer, he's always next level. Like everyone
Yeah.
knows Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the best players in the world, and he trains like he is one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Look, sports and martial arts is like an area where you hear that concept like frequently, right? Like you hear
Mm.
a lot of boxers, a lot of UFC fighters, a lot of AFL players. They all train as if with and they usually the word that comes up is intensity. They train with the same intensity on the day of competition as their throughout their training or throughout their practice like leading up
Mm.
to those games. So definitely a lesson in that.
Is there anywhere like, do you have any examples of something like that?
uh, of continuous improvement um, or what specifically.
I guess kind of like that idea of doing how you do everything is how you do it, or how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah,
Is that something you struggled with at a young age, or did you kind of? Because I feel
at,
like you're fairly habitual.
yeah at a young age, going out partying like your first drink like sets
Yeah.
the tone for the rest of the night. No, I'm just so I always start with
But
shots.
if he sips it or something, it's going to be a nice cruisy night. But
Yeah, just straight up. Nah, I think, yeah, I think I definitely do that in boxing. So like, when you start doing like 3 or 4, 5 classes, or sessions a week, you'll there's the kind of like a complacency of like, hey, if I'm going to do a double class, or if this is a really hard class, I'm going to save my energy to the end of the class, because
okay,
otherwise you kind of fizzle out, right? And I notice people do this by default when they anticipate something to be difficult. Instead, I've got the mindset of if you practice as hard as you can, you keep the intensity from the start, you're better off, because that's when you've got your best form, you've got your best energy. So therefore you'll be practicing with the highest intensity but also closest to the perfect form. Whereas towards the end of the class you get a bit sloppy with your form, and you're trying to like like be brutal like and push through it. It's all so that's kind of I found like that has helped me like improve like as quick as possible. And also in weightlifting, you can go into the gym if you've got an hour allocated. How many times have you seen people go like, I'm not going to lift this heavy because I've still got 6 exercises to go? My mindset is you go in, a lot of the compound exercises around like chest, around shoulders, around back, right? You know, deadlifts, dumbbell press, these exercises literally you can do 2 sets of these at your heaviest weight, and that might be 20% of your exercises, but that's done, you're 80% spent, like you're literally like you've spent all your energy, and that's fine, you can grow off that. And as soon as I made that switch in weightlifting, I started breaking plateaus and started lifting quite heavy. Like I never got massive, but for my weight I was lifting like, you know, my weight and a half. So I thought that was pretty, that helped me get to that point, because I had that plateau when I reached body weight with the weights. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I think like a part of like a high performance person is always kind of not like if you're running to a certain place, just because you know where the end is doesn't mean you take it by half at any part of the journey. And I think we see that in a lot of people, unfortunately, is if they're running 5K, they'll run the first 3 like just jogging, and then they'll really uptick the next 2.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, yeah, it definitely defeats the point of running like the 5K as hard as you can. And yeah, no, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Think yeah, it'll be like, I mean, I'm just like, yeah, an average nobody, so like it'll be good to hear from like some no, I'm not an average nobody, but I don't have like the intensity of or like the accomplishments of like some of the most elite people. But I'm speaking from my own perspective. But it'd be interesting to hear, you know, when we do come across people or interview or podcast with people that do.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think
No.
like I think the important part there is like so many people, we already have a lot of the view of those high performance people.
Yeah.
Like people understand Cristiano's mindset. Like they know he's fucking hard as shit. Like what we're kind of speaking about and what you're speaking about is considerably more relatable,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
right? I think it's more self-aware as well. It's like, dude, you're not Cristiano Ronaldo, or you're not Eddie Hall. So
Yeah.
you're not going in the gym. You're not going to pull 500 on the dead,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
But your kind of like little habitual changes have allowed you to progress for you.
Yeah.
So
And
that
then,
self-awareness, like how your mind works.
yeah, and anyone starting out, or no matter where you're in the journey, you can learn from the you know, these concepts and the philosophy or ethos of people who are accomplished. And a lot of this would have been, you know, a lot of this would have been learnt through, you know, experience and getting to those, you know, extreme levels of competition. So what people learn at the extremes can still be applicable to us, you know, along the journey, wherever you are.
That's a great message for people as well. That's a great message, because like one thing we're talking about at like kind of where we are at this stage is sometimes it's hard for us to teach people coming straight into the journey because we forget what it was like because we're so far away from it.
Yeah.
And learning from someone who's so extreme and has done so many things, a lot of the times their lessons are kind of so macro that they're, you know, unteachable.
Yeah.
And they're so far removed from like the starting of their journey that, you know, they can't actually provide the best amount of value.
Yeah.
So I think so, like that's why it's so important for us to kind of like document the journey, because we're closer to the fact of where we were when we first started,
Yeah.
which makes it more relatable and makes it kind of, I feel, more realistic for people to think they can achieve something similar.
I think it's more interesting too. Like, let's say we do get a lot of success. Would you rather hear about people's, you know, struggles in the beginning, or would you rather just hear about their success, which got them to where they are? So I think, you know, you look up to your celebrities, you look up to athletes, you want to hear about the challenges in the early days, right? We sat around, we listened to Mike Tyson, and his reflection and his struggles in his early days, and how he actually felt as he was gaining all that sort of fame, and that's interesting compared to how he felt about his last fight.
Do you think it's the type of people we are that find that more interesting?
I think just in general, people want to know where people started off. I mean, like, if you're looking for tangible, actionable things, then you're probably further along in the journey, and you're looking, and you probably wouldn't be benefiting too much from listening to content anyway. You'd probably need more coaching or one-on-one advice. That's my opinion anyway. Like, once you get to that level, you've got a coach, you've got someone that's spending that specific time tailoring it to you. Like, our content is broadcasted generally. It's not personalized for one person. We're not making this specifically for one person. So that's where the coaching comes in, I think. Look, I think we might maybe wrap that up today. It was really good. One of the things we're looking to do is maybe be a bit more punchy with our podcast, and I think we had a really good podcast today. And if we can release some interesting topics each week, and keep it punchy, it'll be good for ourselves and for listeners. What do you think?
I think as long as we keep the conversation enjoyable between us, we don't go longer than we need to, because we just, in a normal conversation, we just feel like that is we only go as long as we want to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if there's a conversation we're really into, we want to go for an hour and a half or 3 hours, then we go. If we want to go 20 minutes, we go 20 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, yeah, if you guys are listening, hopefully you got a bit of value out of us today. But I think I had a lot of fun. I don't know about you, Daniel, but yeah, I thought today was, we had a few laughs, and we also touched on some really good points, some learning lessons.
I think the best thing again is, like, this is not a joke, people. We had a meeting together. When was it? Friday morning?
Yeah, just really.
Friday morning we had a meeting. We're like, all right, let's kind of have a little brainstorm. This is what we're going to talk about, kind of get your knowledge in so we can really try to provide value, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't talk about a single thing.
Yeah.
Again, like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good thing, because it means we can just converse on whatever. So, but I got a bucket today.
Shit. Oh, mate. A couple.
I didn't even use the spout.
A couple of the boys, they're just like, they've got a reason to watch right to the end now. They're just waiting.
I'm just baiting you all in for the whole conversation, just for that moment.
And then
it's all marketing.
And then it's gonna be like the washing machine, mate. Like, the
Dude, I'm trying.
Actually, that's no good. There's holes in those, aren't there?
Hey, it'll be I'll get it done. I'll tape them all up.
Yeah.
Tape it all up.
Thanks for listening, guys.